Or it's like, if you're not sure about something, there's no harm done to let the artist try something, because, worst case, they prove you right. Like, yeah, it wasn't a great idea. Best case scenario, wow, they came up with an amazing new part for the song or a new idea that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise. Like, it's always good to let the artist try stuff, like, I think it's a really important point.
Yeah, man. Artists too. Like it's kind of cool because for me, I think there's a bunch of producers that I think can lose track of that sometime because they're not in the artist's chair when you're like bearing your soul. And like if someone comes to me and is like, I want to write this song about this abusive relationship I'm in, or like something, or even just like this guy that like broke my heart. You can probably tell I write a lot of sad songs, but whatever it is, like that's like real to them. And like they know what their vision is, And so like sometimes I even have those moments where I'm like, yo, this really isn't right. But like, again, I go with them because they're the artist. They're in that chair and I trust their vision almost more than I trust mine,
Yeah, totally. Do you send out your tracks to one mastering engineer, several mastering engineers? Like, what are your thoughts on mastering?
My thing is like, if I'm mixing and mastering it, I'm just doing it myself. And if I'm not, it's whoever they use. Like there's one people in LA, the Bakery Mastering. I've used them a bunch of times for people. I think a lot of people use them. They're pretty sick, but like they're like the only. And my friend Tom used to do some mastering for me, but yeah, like it's really like I don't have like people that I go to because it's just or that are my go-tos because I would just do it myself in that case,
How do you find mastering yourself? Like I personally find that like impossible. So I'm just like curious. Like
really,
yeah. I mean, I know how to put a limiter on something and make it, a bit louder and, maybe I'll like, boost the top end, the bottom end, take out one problematic frequency in the mid range or something like.
Sounds like it's pretty much it to me, dude.
Yeah, but like I could do that. But like for me at the end of the mix, I just don't have objectivity of like what's right or wrong anymore. And I kind of really want a mastering engineer to say like, oh yeah, you know what, you could probably put a little bit more sub in there. Like don't overthink. Like I'm overthinking everything by that point. You know what I mean?
I get that. And I'll be real with you. Like part of for me, like it's something that like if I had an unlimited budget, I would of course save time and do that. But it's like I said before, mixing and mastering is one of those things that I can do myself. And it's one of those things that I do well enough that I can take it on and be learning with it and this and that. But like, yeah, there's definitely value in going to other people. And like you said, like, I do think that slows me down, especially in mixing less than mastering, but like where I overthink it sometimes because I'm the one producing it. But again, it's the same thing too, because my masters, bro, like if I have a problem with it, I just go into the mix and fix it. So like,
right.
And like there are situations where people, because sometimes I do just master tracks for people, and those are the ones where it becomes more complicated and, using different tools in like Ozone to take stuff out or this and that. But for me, for the most part, like I can go back into the mix and just fix it there. So my masters are always just like a couple layers of like limiting and slight little EQ changes and widening, and that's it. Maybe some tape,
or
something.
Do you do stereo bus compression at all?
Yeah,
like, even in the mix.
In the mix is not in a master, but in the mix a lot of time. Yeah,
because I feel like a lot of hip hop people are not actually using compression anymore because they kind of want that low end to just like shoot through, like the transient.
Yeah, I think it's both. Like, I mean, a lot of hip hop too is like a lot of times, like I've heard crazy stories of people just like, they didn't even mix it. They just like released it from the beat, like without me even knowing. That happens like a lot. I think hip hop is a different animal, but yeah, like I don't use it all the time. It depends on the track, but I love, especially on vocals, like that parallel processing, running your vocals through like a tape sim. I love like the Ozone one that they have, the Ozone vintage tape.
Yeah,
dude, like can, but it's a flavor thing like anything else. Like, for me, it's more of a flavor thing than a volume thing. Usually my volume, I have a bunch of headroom anyway. So,
Right on. And you're mixing inside of Ableton.
Yes. And sometimes Pro Tools too. Like I don't do full mixes in Pro Tools, but I record my vocals in Pro Tools because Ableton doesn't have good editing yet. A new one is about to come out that has editing. So I might just drop Pro Tools altogether. Get your stuff together, Avid. But yeah, so sometimes I'll do like the vocal mixing in there, then bring it in. But yeah, most of my mixing in Ableton.
Wow, that's amazing. I feel like it's such a different workflow than other DAWs in that sense, like especially for mixing. I mean, I know some people do mix in it, obviously you included.
Yeah, well, it's just easier for me because stemming out my tracks to a different thing, it's much easier to just like go off of stuff. And like so for memory, I just print stuff, and it helps you decide on what your processing is and stick to it anyway, you know? So
Yeah. I had an interesting conversation with another guy in Israel named Daniel Englister recently, and he's kind of he's like co-mixed some tracks that were created in Ableton because it just didn't make sense to take them out of the program. Like once you have a production that's so deeply embedded in the program, it's like hard to take it out because like, you know, that reverb is actually a very important part of the track or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I found that fascinating.
It's interesting, yeah, and like even automating though too. Like sometimes I'll mix
part
of a song, and the filter that I had sweeping down to like 100, like actually just needs to go down to 300, and I didn't notice it because I hadn't addressed the low end yet. You know, so like that kind of stuff too becomes annoying to like go. I used to stem out my stuff and do it that way, and it just became so annoying, like having to go fix the same filter 30 times, like you know.
Yeah. That's a good case for staying in the production session and not going out. Super interesting, dude. So I guess I only have a couple more questions for you. This has been really, really fun and informative, and I learned a ton already.
Dude, it's so fun.
Yeah, thanks, dude. So I asked this question to everybody, and I'm curious to hear what you have to say. So if looking back on when you were getting started on your journey, what's one thing that you would want to tell yourself, like, hey, this is important? You may have done it, you may not have done it, but what's that one thing that you'd also would want to impart on the listeners, like, who are more at the beginning of their journeys?
The number one thing, it's so easy for me to say, patience. Patience. And like, because I told you, like, I've wanted to do this since I was a young child. And, but like, that has taken away so much, like, happiness because I was like so focused on getting my goals. And that is the biggest thing. Like this, you got to go into the music thing knowing, everybody says it like, yo, it might take you 10 years to do it. But like, bro, it's probably going to take you 10 years to do it unless you're really lucky or like scary, stupid, talented, which exists. But like in reality, you're probably going to do this for at least 10 years. I've honestly been doing it like 15 years, in terms of actually doing it. And like, So I've spent a lot of time just like being so focused and upset that like I'm not where I think I should be, or like seeing other people around me blow up, people who I work with and this and that, and being like, that kind of thing of just like, I should be doing that too. Like you shouldn't be doing anything than what you're doing. And that would be the number one thing I would say is just like, bro, enjoy life. You don't have to not enjoy your life until you make it. And that's what I'm learning now. And I feel like I'm just at the beginning of like all of it, really, in terms of actually being in the industry. But like, I'm trying to practice that so much right now and like get those thoughts out of my head, because it's the music thing. I know for people like me, it's the most important thing to, other than my daughter now, but like it's ruled my life. But I wish that younger Dylan had gone into it just knowing that like, it was going to take time, and that the real thing to do is learn to enjoy life in the meantime and love and be in these things. Like I look back at like shows I played where I was like concerned because only 50 people were there, which by the way, I should be really grateful for and I am, but just like so in your own head about stuff to where you're not even enjoying. Like I would kill to go back to those shows with 10 people in the room and play them right now.
Amen.
I would kill for it.
Yeah, man.
So just enjoy it and be patient, man. That's it.
I love that. That's a great piece of advice. And actually the last episode gave a very similar piece of advice with Irko that just released this week. Yeah, and it's something that I worked on. I mentioned also in that episode a couple of years ago, just trying to like really enjoy the process. Like you're never going to, once you hit that goal, you're going to have another goal. Like the goals don't end. There's always another mountain higher that you see once you hit that goal. So like it can't just be about that goal. It has to be about the journey, and you have to love the process of doing it. Sure, there are tough parts about it. Maybe you're not making enough money. Maybe you're having a hard time getting enough clients, or whatever it is. I don't know. Like for everybody, it's different. But you still have to enjoy those like little things, and just remember that you're in it for the long haul.
You're in it for the long haul. Yep, that's so facts. And yeah, like as long as you're showing up, that's the other thing is like as long as you show up, you don't even realize like you're gonna get good. Just like keep showing up.
Yeah, persistence.
If you're not there where you're supposed to be, then just keep showing up,
Yeah. Amen to that. Dylan, what a pleasure to have you on. Great to schmooze with you. How can our audience find you on the internet?
Yeah, so most of my social media handles are just at Dylan Emmet, DYLANEMMET. Also, like if you just look me up on like YouTube, Spotify, my artist's music is there. And I'm about to be going really hard into TikTok next year. So
okay,
look out
cool.
for that too.
I was just recommended by someone that it's time to get on TikTok. So maybe I'll see you around there as well.
It's time, my dude. I've seen some of my friends killing it with TikTok and changing their lives. So it's legit.
Oh boy. Oh boy. All right. Well, I guess this conversation does not end here. There'll be more TikTok talk later.
Yeah.
Dylan, this is awesome. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll be in touch.
My pleasure, man. Thank you so much for having me. This is great. Really fun.
A pleasure. Thanks, dude. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Secret Sonics. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Dylan as much as I did. If you enjoyed this episode or any of our other episodes, I'd super appreciate it if you would go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It really helps the show. And if you could share this episode or your favorite episode with a friend or two, that would also really help the show move forward. In addition to that, you can find us on social media. Just search for Secret Sonics. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. And you can email me at secretsonics@gmail.com if you have any comments, feedback, guests you might want to recommend, anything like that. So that's about it for now. Until next time, I hope you guys have a great week. Stay safe out there and dig in. Bye-bye.